Depending on my review of this, I might just do a tutorial and throw it up on YouTube, or we'll use one of these recordings to put it up for further discernment. Also on the phone with me right now are on the sorry, just one other chat here. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Judy, for that. On the phone with me also is Mel. Say hi, Mel.
Everybody, I'm a business analyst with the technology partner for BCIT regarding our Archibus. So I'll be supporting Jerry in case he has anything that he needs me to cover, or if I happen to notice something that he hasn't covered.
Thank you, Mel. There's two primary points that I lean on for Mel for support. One is for numeracy literacy. When it gets to numbers, he's a little bit more articulate than I am at explaining things, and also just some emotional security. So if I get a little bit emotionally labile, Mel slips in there and gives me a couple of positive words of affirmation, and we can get going.
Great
okay,
job,
jokes aside.
Great job.
Thank you. There we go. Practicing up. I will be throwing the baton to Mel partway through to walk through some of the numbers and calculations that we're going to see. Okay, as promised, I'm taking my self off screen here. Going to open up a PowerPoint presentation. We'll whip through that, and then we'll get into actually looking at the changes that we discussed. Give me 1 second here. Okay, based on my controls, everybody should be able to see PowerPoint slide. Can one or many people just unmute and say, yep, you can see it, just so I can confirm everybody can see this?
Yep.
Yep. Perfect. I'll take two. Thanks, everybody. So Archibus enhancements, as I mentioned, cost type grouping and projections, what we're going to be looking at today. So these are based on feedback, as I mentioned, grouping work package by cost type, hard, soft, FF&E, and financial projection screen, which is new for everybody. For the purpose of today's presentation, we're going to have a quick look at the project process. We're going to look at the screens, enter a new work package, talk about contingencies, things to be aware of after go live, and questions and answers. Let's talk first of all. Now, I know again that there's people with different professional disciplines on the phone. We've got some project managers and some coordinators. We've also got people that have other job descriptions that are involved. So this is not meant to give an in-depth breakdown of PMI's version of what project management looks like, or a construction management discipline. This is just super high level, more focused around PMs that have in the past or are currently reporting to Joe. So if this doesn't match your process exactly, the middle swim lane, the vertical swim lane here, probably will have some relevant pieces for you anyway. Bottom line, when Archibus was first implemented a couple of years ago, BCIT was using templates for projects, handing projects on, setting them up and passing them off to project managers. Those templates were analogous to templates that you'd see in Word. So instead of having to type a Word doc out every time, you can use a Word template. Same thing with Archibus. We had templates for 0 to 3 million, 3 million to 10 million, and over 10 million. The efficacies of those for project managers having to go through and do clean up and tidy up of extraneous work packages wasn't a great use of time. So we've moved away from those templates. Right now, from my understanding from Joe, is typically he'll put in cursory information about a project. And that'll typically be the project name, project budget, maybe a few other details, and then send it over. Project manager, Ryan gets an email or a jabber or a Zoom chat or a text or an email saying you've got a new project. He opens it up in Archibus and he's away to the races. Once a project manager gets a project from an Archibus perspective, there's work package creation. And let's just take a second to talk about the project hierarchy before we go along here. Archibus, just to refresh everybody, depending on the lens that you look at project management through, whether if it's a software development lifecycle or a construction management lifecycle, PMI, etc., you can have different models of how projects move through project process. In The Archibus world, just to keep it simple, a project is made up of work packages. Work packages have contract dollar amounts associated with them. Once you have a work package set up with a contract, you have invoices that go against that. You have change orders that are also applied to that. If you look at a project from a contract plus invoices plus change orders, that would equal kind of the current state financially of your project. Again, there's a lot more financial intricacies that you guys work through as project managers and other disciplines, but from our perspective, that's kind of how we're looking at the world right now. Back again to the swim lane. If you're a project manager, so you get those work packages, you approve or reject invoices. That's a process, as you guys know better than I do, that happens between Commons team and yourself. Typically a combination of Outlook messages where you're approving or denying charges. And then Commons team is entering it in Archibus so that you can go into the Archibus tab and invoices and see what's happened with invoices. So invoices are entered, approved, or rejected. Change orders are put in. You monitor your project, and then it goes into project closure. You'll notice that there's two glaring red fonts here, one that says cost types, the other that says monitor projections. But why are those red fonts? I can hear Ryan thinking, just picking on Ryan today for some reason. So cost types would be one of the two new things that we're implementing. As I mentioned, hard costs, soft costs, FF&E, and monitor projections is also in red because that is going to be a new piece that we're looking at. So those are the two new pieces that are being added to the process. That being said, I'm going to stop sharing. We're going to bring up Archibus. Any questions so far? This is, again, so far what we've talked about, probably not rocket science to most of you guys, but any questions or concerns with anything we've seen so far? Take that as a no. And I'm just going to bring up Archibus. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'll just get, again, one or many people to come on and just say that you can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So Archibus screen is not going to be new to 99% of you. Anybody that's new to this, Archibus is set up with what we call buckets, which are these white panes within the buckets are logically grouped pieces of functionality that are going to be filtered based on your rights in the system. There's also a navigation bar over to your left, depending on how you use Archibus. This might or might not be of use to you. If you want to grab more screen real estate, you can hit the caret and drop that over, so you got a little bit more space. In our case, in the use case that we just went over, where Joe has gone in and sent a project over, you're typically your point of entry is going to be management console. Again, it shouldn't be new information to anybody here. You go into management console. When that brings it up, that's going to bring it up in the statuses. Couple notes for you here, again, for anybody that might be new to this. If you want to see all the statuses, you can change that to all up here and it'll filter for you. Another bonus tip with no added cost for today. If you're looking at projects, you can hit more, you can hit project, and you can look up projects by number, just as a little user tip there. We'll put less to clear it up. One other point for anybody not familiar with the Archibus environments that we have. And folks, I'm just going to ask you to bear with me for 1 second here. For anybody that wasn't with us in the first 2 minutes of pre-call chatter, we were talking about dogs. I have a 120-pound lap dog who gets a little overly affectionate when I'm doing Zoom meetings, so I just had to escort him out of the room. That was the pause. Back to it here. We're looking at the different project statuses, and I was just talking about the architecture that we have with Archibus. For anybody who's not familiar with kind of software architecture 101, you typically have a couple different environments that you use. One is a production environment, and one or many are non-production environments. The non-production environments are where you do your development and testing in. So if anybody's worried about me fooling around in production, I'm actually in one of our test environments that's hosted on Horizons Cloud right now. All that out of the way, let's go in and look at a test project that I've set up. And here you're going to see the first change, cost types that we mentioned. This is the one that I referred to as definitely not rocket science for anybody. If you're used to looking at Archibus without this, typically what you would see is the work packages. Again, remember, a project is made up of one or many work packages. So you'd come in here, look at your project, you'd have one or many work packages on here. Now they're simply sorted or organized by soft cost, hard costs, FF&E. Before we get to show you how to go in there and organize those, let's just have a look at the what I call the UI real estate of the screen, and that's up top here. There's really just one or two changes to be aware of. One is that there's something that says expand all rows, and surprisingly it does exactly that, expands all rows or collapses all rows. There's also a little help button here. If you're wondering, there's been a few changes with the columns that we show here with dollar amounts. If you're wondering how any of these, and let's collapse that so everybody can see that a little bit better. If you're wondering about any of how any of these costs are calculated, you can hit that help button and it gives you a little description of that. When you want to open these, you can open them by expand all rows, or you can go down to the caret and explode the caret. And it's a logical grouping, as you'll see. So first you'll have soft cost, hard cost, FF&E, that's furniture, fixtures, and equipment for anybody who's not familiar with the acronym. Underneath each one of those, you'll see a cost type. So in this case, there's an insurance cost type that's under a cost class of soft cost, and it's got a work package called FinDev 2.2. These others are similarly grouped. Got dollar amounts. Instead of being totaled at the bottom, as in some other screens in Archibus, you're going to see the totals up top here. And when you come in, after we go live on June the 9th, we are not making any assumptions about how you want to group things, soft costs, hard costs, FF&E. So your work packages, instead of being under one of these three categories, will all have a little dash next to them, which basically means I haven't categorized it. You need to categorize this for me. So that'll be a one-time process that you have to go through for some housekeeping for your projects. If you don't do it, if you don't have time to do that, or it's something that happens down the road, it's not going to break anything in Archibus, and it's not going to break anything for your projects. To drop one of these items, one of these work packages, to categorize it into the proper cost category, you simply click on the work package itself, which is going to bring up your ability to look in the details or contract details. You click on details, and you're going to notice down here that there's something called cost type. It's a mandatory field. When you're first putting in work packages, if you're doing a fresh project, it'll be something that is asked for. If not, you simply come down here, click the three dots, and it'll give you the ability to look at the cost types. Now, something for any eagle eyes out there, if everybody's still awake, when you're looking at these, a logical question would be, are these all up-to-date cost categories and cost types, Jerry's? No, they're not. Something that's been on my to-do list for a week or three here is to reach out to Joe. Rochelle, you gave me some input on this a couple of weeks ago, I think, if you remember, but I got to circle back with Joe and just get a confirmation of cost categories and cost types for this page. So consider these kind of tests. Some of them might be relevant. Some of them might be, why is that there? Just so you know, you can filter these when you come in. So let's say that I want to enter a new or categorize something as a hard cost. Literally, I can write hard cost in there, click out or enter, and it's going to segregate them and filter them into just the hard costs that are there. So it's as simple as that. Coming in, you hit the three dots, you select the proper soft cost, hard costs, or FF&E, and you're away to business. Again, what that's going to do, all that's going to do is just change the way that items are organized here for you. That's the first change. Any questions from anybody on that? Perfect. Just going to check. I've got a couple notes here. Just had a question. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Mel already answered it. Perfect. Thanks, Mel. And yes, for anybody who's wondering if the jokes and the material and the presentation is the same as yesterday, yes, it is. So if you were here yesterday, definitely a better use of your time not to repeat the material. We're now going to look at projections. Now, the projections page, let's first of all look at the UI real estate for this. There's a couple new things that are up here. There's the expand all rows and collapse all rows that you can see. There's an export to Excel, which surprisingly exports to Excel. There's a new feature up here called filter by work packages. We'll get into the details of these numbers and what all this means in just a second. But let's say that you've expanded all rows and you've got even more work packages than I have. And it's a little bit heinous to look at that amount of information. You can choose to filter. So in this case, I just want to look at all work packages called FinDev 1.3. So it takes a second. And when we open those rows again, you'll just be looking at a work package itself. You want to see all the work packages, you go all work packages. Let's open these up in just a second. But before we do, let's just talk about what these bands mean. When you're looking at these bands, the purple band up top here is an aggregate of the bands below it. But what, Mel says, Jerry, are the bands below it? These bands are financial information sorted by fiscal year. So in this case, 2024-25 and 2023-24. Opening these up, you're going to see a number of pieces of information. And at this point in time, I'm going to pass the gavel over to Mel, the verbal gavel, and just let him walk through these numbers for us.
Sure. Thanks, Jerry. So if we start from the top, like Jerry was saying, the purple band is the grand total amongst all fiscal years summarized up. And the light blue bands are for the totals for each fiscal year. So you see that it spans 2 fiscal years, and that's based off the contract start date and the end date. And when you look at the org contract, that org contract is the total contract amount for all of the work packages that are part of this project. So the 35,000 there is a sum of the 10,000, 8,000, 12,000, 1,000, 4,000. Looks like there's no change orders for this particular project, but the new total is essentially just an org contract, original contract, and the change order amount for each of the work packages. And I'll get to the middle piece in a bit, but on the right-hand side, you'll see there's a fiscal year total, FY total, and a grand total, and a difference. So for the fiscal year total, it's just the sum of the months for that fiscal year. So in that case, 1,000 is just that $1,000 for May copied across the year. And then for last forecast, it's 8,333, 9,333, 8,333, 5,000, which summarizes to 30,999.99 cents. And same thing for the new forecasts also. And then for the difference you'll see there as 34,000, and then below that 1 cent, and then $7,333.34. Those are calculated based on the new total on the left-hand side, subtracting the grand total on that column. So $35,000 minus 1,000 is 34,000. 35,000 minus 34,999.99 is 1 cent, and 35,000 minus 27,000 is at 7,333.34 cents. And you'll notice that there's a different color for that $7,333.34. That means that it isn't in a deficit based on the projections that you've done. You have that much to allocate for any current month or any future month. So let's get into the middle piece here. Let's use FinDev 2.1 as an example. So you'll see that April, it's all zeros. So there's nothing invoiced, which are your actuals. Last forecast is 0 and new forecast is 0. You'll only see the values for last forecast there for, looks like those 4 months there, May, June, July, August. And you'll be wondering why is there $3,000 for those 4 months. That is an initial calculation that the system does by distributing the original contract amount for the term of the contract. So it looks like this contract starts in May and it ends in August, and it just splits it up evenly by 4. So it's $3,000 in each month. If you want to drill down and find out more details about the contract, you can click on that PO or the work package name there, and you'll see the contract details here right there. So you'll see that $12,000 is your contract amount, and the month for the start is May, and the end is August. So you can close that and go back to projections. And you'll see that that's what's reflected there in those 4 months is May, June, July, August, have those $3,000 each. And then if you look below that at the new forecast, that's going to be the fields that you play around with and modify. And you'll be wondering, some of the fields are read-only, some of them you can modify. You can't modify anything in the past. So you'll see there that $1,000 there is not editable. And you might be wondering, well, did I set that 1,000 or did I set that to something else? In this case, because today happens to be June 1st, we did a switch over, the May month became uneditable. It's that $1,000 actual overwrites whatever you had for that new forecast. That's the actual value. So maybe we had something else different before, maybe it was $3,000, but because it was $1,000 actual, it gets copied down there. And then that modifies the total amount of funding that you have available. So there's $2,000 available remaining for this work package. You can allocate that to any future month. So you can increase, say, June from 3,000 to let's do something that you can't do. Let's increase that by 3,000, which you shouldn't be able to do because you only have 2,000. You hit save, or even click off this and press save. It'll give you this message saying, highlighted revised forecast grand total must not exceed the contract total. So we've exceeded it by $1,000. And you can see on the right-hand side, it's negative 1,000. That means that you may have to make adjustments accordingly. If you want to, in this case, revert back to what it was before, you can just hit the little refresh button right there. Yeah. And I'll bring you back to what it was before. So now we can adjust accordingly. We only have $2,000. Let's change that that June value to 5,000. And then we hit save. Might take a second depending on how many work packages are in this. So there you go. It's updated. Now we have 0 available left for forecasting because we've allocated the remaining funding that we had to June 2023. I think that's all I wanted to cover. Jerry, is there anything else?
No, I think that covers everything. Actually, just two other things that I'll note here. One is if you're going to change a dollar amount within the business rules, as Mel said. So if I chose to do this over $3,000 right now, it's not going to let me. But if I wanted to go under and just put it as $1,000, you're going to see when you click out before you save, you'll see that the numbers actually get changed. So this is kind of the purpose of having the last forecast and the present forecast. You can see what it was, what it is, what the numbers are before you save. So that's one point that I would make. The other point that Mel articulated is how these numbers are initially populated. So again, what it's going to do for each work package when a project is first set up is it's going to take the total contract amount. It's going to divide it by the months of that contract and split it evenly amongst those. One other point that I would mention is that there's a notes section here. We'll just see if we can make my screen a tiny bit bigger. The notes section allows you to, surprise, surprise, add notes, something common asked for so that people can put notes in there. As soon as you click out of the field, it's saved, and you can press the 3 little dots if you want to have a bigger editing area. That, in a nutshell, folks, is the projection sheet. Now, what's going to happen when you first log in? There's 2 use cases that you can think of here. One is if you've got a brand new project that you're editing, per our workflow, as I mentioned, Joe sends the basic project information over and you guys start adding work packages. So if you're on the project dashboard, use case number one would be you come in and you start clicking the add and you start adding work packages one by one. As you go through and add that work package, information will be populated in projections. The other use case is Ryan comes in after this goes live on June the 9th, and he's got 122 projects under his purview. When he comes in here, you'll remember that when there was things not balancing, there will be yellow stripes and alerts showing up on the projections. Again, what the system is going to do for any of Ryan's projects or any of your projects that are already in the system is it's going to do that math that we described. It's going to take the contract amounts, divide it by the months, and split it out. But when it brings over the current invoice information you've gone through and so forth, you might have some situations that need to be nuanced a little bit in terms of the projection. So you literally go to the yellow highlighted area, see what the discrepancy is, and make the adjustment there. So just make that point. Another question that came up yesterday was what happens, Jerry, if we come in and I'm already at 150%. I don't have time today to go in and nuance the projection sheet. Is that going to break anything? No. Archibus is still going to work. Archibus is still going to be having your POs, your contracts. It's still going to be logging your invoices. The only functionality that won't work is if you're talking to Common or you're amongst yourselves and you're looking for accurate balanced projections. Until you go in and make any adjustments, it will not show as balanced there. Same logic behind the cost types. If you come in and Jerry, I'm running at 180% right now. I'm working 80 hours a week. There's no way that I got time this week to come in and organize stuff into soft costs, hard costs, FF&E. It's not going to break anything. It's just not going to show them segregated as such. I just wanted to, before we open it up for any questions, just want to walk through a quick setup of a work package so we can see what that process looks like. And then I'll stop talking to everybody's great joy and ask if there's any questions. If you haven't done this before, this might be new, but most of you have probably seen this before. So to add a new work package, literally add a new work package, we're going to call this Mel test. Anything that's a mandatory field is going to be starred. Now I mentioned if you came in and your project was already set up, you would drill down in the work package and be able to do cost type. If you're doing a new work package, it's going to be a mandatory field. As mentioned there. So you'll have to choose one. So let's just choose, let's go in and choose a hard cost that looks good for us. We're going to choose general contractor. We're going to put a start date and end date on this. And we're going to, everything we need. We'll do a save. It'll tell us if we've missed anything. Nope. So it's telling us to go ahead and finish. So that's step one of entering a work package. That was under hard costs. That was under general contractor. Step two, when you go in and add a work package, as most of you should be familiar, is you drill down into the work package itself, and you have to go through a couple steps to complete it. At BCIT, while there might be, if you're in procurement world, there might be bidding processes that happen. From an Archibus perspective, we don't go through a bidding process, as you should all know. So we just click skip bidding process. We choose a vendor. In this case, I'm just going to arbitrarily choose one. We put a dollar amount. Put $10,000. We're going to put a start date and end date for this contract. So let's put June the 1st. And let's put that to September the 30th. Approve. Sign contract. And expected behavior now would be that when we go to projections, we should see something called Mel test, which is right there. Expected behavior would be that it took the $10,000 that we set up as a work package across 4 months, and that it would set it off as $2,500 to start. And sure enough, it did that. Everything's balancing there. And then again, as you go through, as invoices are logged through the process where you guys approve them, Commons team puts them into the system, they're going to populate in here. And month by month, as you pass a month, as Mel mentioned, they'll become locked down. You won't be able to change them. And as mentioned, if you have invoice amounts, they're going to come down and replace what your projected amount is, because an invoice in our case is a simple way of identifying actuals in your project. That, in a bit of a whirlwind, in 36 minutes, is the two changes that we're introducing. And I'd like at this point in time to stop talking, again, to everybody's great exhale and rest to your ears. Any questions from anybody?
I had a question.
Yes.
I wanted to know if the contract dates or the work package dates can be modified in case, like, for whatever reason, something's late or it needs to be extended for any sort of reason. Is that a locked field once it's set, or can it be updated so that that also reflects on the forecast of a
Great
project?
question. Great question. And my apologies, dude. I'm working on two screens, but I can't see who asked the question. Who was it?
It's Glenda, and you can't see me anyways, but yeah.
Okay, there you go. Hey, Glenda, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Great question. Work packages are locked down after they're entered. I have two responses to how you would address that. One would be what you do current state, and then the next would be if you view that's something that you wanted changed. Let's view with the second case first. If that's something that you view as something that would be meaningful to want to be able to change, we can take that back to Common and Joe and see if that's something that can be changed. Right now, the work process is that it's locked down. So if you had a change, a dollar amount change, that's dealt with change orders. And if you had an actual date of change for the work package, Mel, nothing comes to mind for that apart from creating a new work package, which is kind of heinous. But anything else come to mind for that, for changing work packages that way?
So if you're saying you want to modify the contract details or the work package details?
Just more the dates. Like, let's say I do a work package and it's electrical work and it's something really simple. So I think it's only going to take 3 months, but in the end it takes 6. And I want to change the actual end date, I guess. Or is it just prudent to make every project 1 year worth?
I might have given you an abject lie on that. It does look like I'm just drilling down on it right now. I thought it was uneditable, but it looks like in fact you can go in and change dates.
Yeah,
so that's
fabulous. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, sorry about that.
Well, what I don't think happens is that if you say extend it from the contract from 4 months to 6 months, I don't think it readjusts that last forecasted value for you automatically.
Yeah. So but that's sorry, Mel. Yeah, so that would be an example. And when you go in, it's going to show if that pushes anything out or over, that would be an adjustment that you'd have to make in your in the projections worksheet. Good point, Mel. And good question, Glenda. And good catching at me being untruthful in my answers there. Any other questions? Okay, well, typically what I do when we have extra time at the end of a presentation is something I call sharing circle, which is we all talk about our feelings. Just kidding. I spend too much time with my dog in an office segregated. We're not going to do that. Let me take it off, stop sharing, show my face again. Just so everybody's aware, right now we're looking at June the 9th for instigation of this. That would be a week from Friday. 2 points for you to note. One is that there will probably be a short Archibus downtime, could be an hour, hour and a half. There'll be notification about that that goes out again to recap the highlights. Cost changes and projections will be the 2 pieces that are there. If you did absolutely nothing to either one of those screens after we go live, it's not going to break Archibus. It's not going to break your project numbers. What it will not represent, truthfully, is your projection numbers or the cost grouping. So I think that's all I have. We've asked if there's any questions. Rochelle, you're uncharacteristically quiet, and that might be because you're worried about Bernie, but everything else, anything else you'd like to bring up? Just picking on Rochelle here.
No, I've been through the platform before when I did the trial run, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for your help on that, by the way. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, that's it. You get a magic 4 minutes back to your day. This is my gift to you. As Ryan looks forlornly out the window to what's ahead for the day. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. I really appreciate everybody's time. Mel, anything else before I close off here?
No, you covered pretty much everything. On the projections tab, there is an export button, and there is a filter that'll allow you to, say, for example, you have 10 different work packages and you don't want to see all that data in there. Yeah, you can choose the work package you want to see. And when you do the export, it's representative of what you see on the screen. So if you have all the work packages on the screen, you hit export, you see everything. If you just choose one, you'll have only one export.
Great point. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Okay. I appreciate everybody's time. Have a great day, everybody. Mel, I'll get you to stay on the line. Everybody else, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care. Hey, let's go over to Teams.
Sure.
Okay.